excited that we're hosting another LinkedIn Live today on community and brand real estate. Before we start, just a short shameless plug. Today's webcast is brought to you by Spaceflow. Spaceflow is a tenant experience platform which helps office and residential landlords digitize their portfolios and significantly enhance customer experience with a one-stop shop tool which covers communication, feedback, use of space, building interaction, and other uses. And our guest today is Vlad Buzoianu from Cluj Business Campus. Great
Hello.
to have you here today.
Hi, thanks.
And, the reason why I want to invite Vlad is a really interesting story. So Vlad has, for the last decade, been focusing all his efforts, plans, budgets on building a community in a business park and a community-driven brand that people can identify with. And so today we will look at the journey, dissect it, maybe extract some learnings for others, and also talk about some of his more recent plans and ideas and his views on the market in general. By the way, there is Q&A, so feel free to post any questions that you might have in relation to this topic, and we will try to answer those at the end. So, with that, Vlad, maybe can you briefly introduce yourself and what is CBC actually about?
Hi everyone. Thanks, Ondrej, for the invite. Yeah, I'm Vlad Buzoianu. I'm the CEO of CBC, Cluj Business Campus. And CBC, what's it about? Well, if oversimplified, it's a mixed real estate project with 3 office buildings and 2 residential buildings. And more than that, it's actually what you said, it's a concept. We call it a lifestyle concept that tries to redefine the workplace. We've been doing so for the last 10 years, as you said, and I'll speak more about that in the upcoming talk.
Okay, excellent. So let's look at the beginning actually, because CBC actually, the acronym was the same, but the words were slightly different. So
Yeah.
maybe can you start at the beginning, like how did you get involved, and how did the concept change actually came about?
Yeah, you're right. The name change is actually the moment, the aha moment. So everything started when the company I work for, so actually my boss, he owned a 5-star hotel, and I was managing that 5-star hotel. So I came from hotels, not real estate. I didn't know much about real estate. And at the same time, I had my own student events company, quite a big one, still goes on as a big one in Romania. So I was in much of events and hotels when my boss, he started one of the first major office buildings in Cluj-Napoca. So our audience understands more about this. In Cluj-Napoca, we have like major offices for 12 years. So it's really new to us. So that's something interesting. And he asked for my help with his marketing on his project. It was called Cluj Business Center. It was one office building in a semi-central area of Cluj. That's how it started, and from there it just turned into something completely different. I can tell you the journey. I want to go into that now.
Yeah.
So we started at the same time with another 3 major office projects in Cluj, the first ones, and the demand was really incipient at that time. So it was not an easy breakthrough, let's say. And out of the 4 projects, we were the only local one. So we were called Cluj Business Center, especially because we were local, so Cluj people. But being local also, we were more agile, but we were not so financially strong, let's say, as our competitors were investment funds or whatsoever. So we had to find a differentiator to break through in the market. And the differentiator we came up with was actually 2 of them. The first was a brand strategy called New Urban, and we said we want people to have everything they need within 100 steps in our concept. So we're going to build not an office building, but a small city as we imagine it. And a small city for us was offices, residential, restaurants, school, kindergarten, high school, park, football pitch, rooftop bar, a lot of stuff. It's constantly adding to that list. And that was the first thing, because of course every office has amenities, but we just went really, really far with them. And then the second differentiator was we're going to invest everything into building a community. All our marketing efforts, we're going to do no B2B marketing, just create amazing experiences for the people working here. This was like 8 years ago, so it was something really new, but it was a winning bet. And when we agreed on this strategy, I told my boss, listen, if we do this, we're going to transform every person working in our buildings into a brand ambassador who's going to go and tell other people how cool it is to work at CBC. And I promise you, from a contender, we're going to become an office project that companies were going to actually bid to be here. He laughed at that point. I was 24 years old, so yeah, but it really worked. It really, really worked. And that's when we shook hands on that strategy. I renamed the project Cluj Business Campus, so I don't change the CBC, but campus was the perfect word because it's similar to the campus and student life. It's just like students of every age. Long story short.
Okay, excellent. Thanks a lot. I think I didn't mention last time that you came from the hotel industry. I think it's very telling because right now the office industry is very much learning from hospitality industry. Actually, all real estate segments are learning from the hospitality industry these days.
You know, the aha moment was when he called me to do his, let's say, branding, but branding was build a website, how do we find funnel clients, whatever. I looked at the project and looking at the people coming in and out the building, I realized our clients are not only the companies that are renting offices here, it's every single person coming inside, you know? And coming from the events, I said, this will be easy. We have all the infrastructure, we have all the people here. Let's just create events. Let's just make the office fun. And from there, it just went berserk.
Yeah, excellent. But I imagine it wasn't all smooth sailing for the last 8-9 years since you started. So can you share some challenges and things that you learned that you just wouldn't do again?
Yes. Well, first of all, we had one major challenge in this idea because we are a traditional landlord, so multi-tenant building. It's easier in co-works like we worked on it, but for us it was hard to build a community because we had no communication with the people we want to build a community with. So I could speak with the marketing manager of a company, with their community manager, with their CEO, but how do I speak to every single employee? And that was a big challenge, especially that most companies had their own interest of building their own communities and they could not see what is the value in like building a larger community. Why would I mix my people with people from another company? What if they steal my people? What if, you know, like it wasn't such a good thinking back then, but it was a huge block. And it took us a while to overcome this. And one of the solutions we thought of in 2016 was actually a tenant app. That's how actually we got in touch. So yeah, that was a huge challenge, communicating with every person in your building. And then, of course, we had a few other challenges because it's really easy to say, I'm going to build a community. Community is like such a large word, like cool. You know, everyone can use it, everyone can say it, but actually doing it becomes hard because you want to measure. How do you measure your community? How do you build your community? And of course, it was naive to think, as we discovered, to think that we can turn all 3,000 or 4,000 people working and living here into a community. It was a wrong judgment. So we realized we should be more realistic and just focus on a 10 or 15% initially and understand that if we do 50%, that's a dream. You could never turn 100% of all the people in one place into one community. But we found ways of doing that by focusing on micro communities. But that's a huge challenge because, as I said, community is a big word. I mean, it can be people of the same religion, people working or living in the same place, or it can be people aligned by the same interests. So we chose to focus on the same interests and chose 2 or 3 areas where we wanted to create micro communities and then bring them together. But that's something we discovered in like 6 years. So yeah, we wanted to build a community, but we didn't know how, really.
So you were just learning as you were going along, I assume. But actually, I just want to there's lots of you touched on lots of interesting points. But actually, this challenge with with the companies and their own interests. Actually, last time we spoke, you made a really interesting analogy, like they are interested in community which ends on the door of their office, which I thought was an interesting way to put it. And you said it was a challenge to overcome it. So, but you somehow managed. But so, how did you actually overcome this specific area?
We involved managers and let's say tribe leaders from each company in our campus into the process. So this was the winning thing. I mean, thinking about creating a community, me and you in a room, not going out there and telling everyone, look, we want to do this, we need your help. That was one of the mistakes we did initially, and we didn't understand why our community wasn't picking up, But after we got all the relevant people, managers, leaders at the same table and said, listen guys, we want to do this. I know you have your concerns, but here's what benefits we see. And we explained them, we compared this to a school experience or a university experience. If I only meet people from business management, my university experience would be much smaller than a campus experience where there's like diversity. Let's celebrate diversity. I mean, you can have all the people on LinkedIn anyway. If I want to steal Ondrej to my company, I can find him. It's not a problem if I go to an event with him or not, And more than half of them were receptive initially. And we started working together, and they actually bought in on the vision. So that was the winning tip I can give. And one company said, we want to be in charge of charity. Perfect. And then the other company said, we want to be in charge of the sport events. And then actually our vision from what we were actually doing became 10 times bigger with 10 times more resources. And then it started flowing in the right direction. But until then, it was a challenge. And then I can give you a specific example of a community success. I wrote an article about this, actually. I met two guys, a woman and a man waiting in line at the canteen like 6 years back. They were working in different companies, and we couldn't find a free table, so we shared a table, all three of us. We met, we introduced ourselves, whatever. 3 years ago, I see them again, they're married with a kid. That was larger than, we make friends, we make girlfriends, make whatever in school, in the office. It's a social experience. So and people together, we all know we're happier, And then happier, there's also a business case here. More productive. So I put this business case in front of the managers when we all got together and said, people are going to be happier, they're going to be more productive. You're going to offer them a better workplace experience. The office will not simply be the place where they come to write code or whatever. Long story short.
Great. And I think this point on onboarding the companies, that's brilliant. I think it makes a lot of sense that it worked. I like it a lot. Actually, you mentioned, I just wanted to unpack one other point. We discussed it already before. So the community means a lot of things to a lot of people. So what does it actually mean for you and by extension to CBC?
So at CBC, we first identified what we want to put out as a community. It's two ways to go about this, but we chose one way. You can go and ask people and collect data and see what they want to build. If you go on common interests, you can try and find out the common interests and then try and build a community on that. But that's a wrong way. We've been there also, because people also change. We know this. So we looked inside, we looked at ourselves, and we said, what do we want to preach? And we said, we want to preach a happy office life. Okay, how do we see the happy office life? Well, we see people being healthy, we see people being productive, all the stuff that is mainstream right now. It wasn't so mainstream back then, And then we asked ourselves, okay, how do we make them happy? Well, they need to get social, we need to have parties, we need to, all the drills. And then how do we make them healthy? Well, we need to have healthy food on site fresh every day. We need to have sport. We need to see how we connect all these and have a lifestyle program where we build for them like what they eat, how they train, We create fit camps for them, you know. And then we said, okay, then we're going to build our community on sport and learning. I mean, healthy and learning and social. And that's all we did. Anything that was outside of that, we just left it out of our marketing plan. And it worked because we preach certain values and we attracted people who believe in them, so true believers. And then the community grew with more involvement from the community.
Okay, thanks a lot. I think that kind of just transitioning a bit actually to brand, which is the other half of today's topic. It sounds like that to me that community and brand are really intertwined in your case. It's even like for me it's even hard to distinguish. So can you talk about actually how did you think specifically about brand this kind of this whole time? What does CBC brand represent? And what steps are you taking specifically to communicate it? And I will even say that I assume like everything you do is basically communicating the brand. But can you kind of mention maybe some like really specific ideas or steps that you're taking where you're like, okay, like we really need to, this is what we want to communicate with the CBC brand?
Yeah, so you're definitely right. I mean, community and the brand is actually one and the same in our case because, as I said, I mean, I love that you opened branding because I'm coming from that area and that's what I brought into real estate, especially in Romania. And I tried to preach the fact that brand is much more than having a nice logo or nice articles in the press about ourselves. That's nice, cool, but brand is actually everything. And I even built the business in such a way that all our strategy meetings are not strategy meetings, they're brand meetings. Because from the brand and what you want, the experiences, because you spoke about experiences, we want to offer the people, we took all the actions we need to do for that to happen. If we speak about, I'll give you an example, okay? Our brand is about redefining the workplace, building a community around specific values. So we just spoke about it. But then we took the brand and said, okay, community. In order to create a community, we ourselves must be a community. So in the inside, so it's not a lie, authentic, yeah? So what do we do to make all the 55 people working at CBC to be a community? And then we took it to the next level. Every touch point with every customer, what's the brand experience we want him to have? From the way he receives his invoice to the way the receptions look like. And I'll give you an example. When we wanted to be this workplace that connects people, I was looking at the one bigger office project in Cluj, one main competitor, really strong project. I was standing in front of it and looking at this huge glass building, beautiful building, but with all the people going through a huge atrium, you know, with their bags on their back and like ants walking in a row, you know. And it reminded me of that Apple legendary commercial at the Super Bowl where Apple stated how they're going to be different from IBM, you know? And I said, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're not going to be the cubicle where people, it's a luxurious office, but they don't know each other. So then we went to the smallest details. How do we transcend this experience, this place we want to be? And it's including from the entrances. If you come into our office, it's going to be a different experience when you come inside, from the first touch point. From the music you're going to hear, from how the reception looks and smells, to how you're greeted, you're going to feel like you just reached your favorite cafe where you've been going for the last 10 years, you know? So, of course, we took a risk being a bit more hip than ultra professional, but we just chose our lane and said, this is the brand lane, this is the people we're going to speak to. And it worked. So branding your business strategy should always be perfectly aligned with your brand strategy. The business strategy is obviously you rent offices, real estate. That's okay, that's clear. But the brand strategy, as we discussed, was we do the new urban, all the services, and constantly being the most serviced office in Romania. So we will never afford to have one office campus with more services in Romania. That's our mission. And the second thing, the community, yeah? So aligning these two, we align them by doing everything around a brand idea. And the brand idea has to be really simple. So our brand idea is work-life blending, which is kind of obvious what we want to say about that. meaning that the office is more than the office, and you get a lot of life going on, and that's it. And the second brand idea we do is a question: how can the office make your life better? And then you take these two brand ideas and you put them into everything you do. You know, everything. Like, let's say the coffee shop at the entrance. You take these two and we think, how can the coffee shop in the office make the life better? Well, simply, we have to have a good barista, that's okay, but it would be really nice if the guy or the girl is really funny. It's really nice to get a coffee and a good joke when you go inside, or to have a charismatic person. So when we interview the coffee guy at the entrance, we make him or her tell us jokes, and we take them for a beer to see how funny and charismatic they are. So that's the detail level we're taking the brand experience to. I don't know if this made sense, but I just gave you and then everything you do is actually a brand signal. Everything, from what we're speaking now to how you're going to interact with my colleagues. So really, branding is like a child. It's a never-ending mission, and it grows and grows and adds ideas, and yeah.
Great. Again, like all of this actually is new to me, and it's fascinating because it's quite difficult to do at scale, probably. But it makes sense you've been able to do it locally, but it was just a lot of effort. So not anybody can do that. And by the way, it's interesting that still today I can have a discussion, and somebody told me, I think office is a business to business. It's a B2B business. Really? I mean, it's like a different planet even compared to what you're saying. So, like, really interesting is basically everything you do. You focus on the total experience, but also you take a lot of care on every step. I think that's really interesting, and not everyone can do it. It's quite special.
And I have an advice for real estate people trying to build their brands around their companies is always focus on the strong points you have, and on the other points where your competitors are stronger, try and build parity. So never try and outdo them if they have more financial resources, never try to have a shinier building. That's wrong. Try and have a good enough building that customers will enjoy it, and look for the parts where you can be much better and focus on them, because that's exactly what we do. So our design and everything is taken to a very nice level, not nicest level, because we know we didn't have the resources to build such buildings like others, but we're still very nice. And then we focused a lot on the community part, So you create a brand distinction by building parity, so people cannot say really that guy's building is much nicer than yours, or that guy's building has a bigger community than yours. And then you focus on where you can beat your competition, and then just pump in that like a lot.
Mm-hmm. Great. This is not only an exercise or kind of a lesson in marketing in real estate, but in business strategy actually in general. And so kind of moving on, just time is moving. The interesting thing about innovative people like yourself is that they usually come with more ideas. So this whole CBC thing actually is not the last really innovative idea that you came up with. By the way, Vlad, today I didn't mention it. He's joining us from his podcast studio in CBC. I just want to mention that's pretty cool. But beyond building CBC, you've also started working on another really innovative idea in real estate, which is, I'll just hint, so blending of not just work and life, but also nature. But I would really love for you to share with us what you've been working on.
So I'll invite the audience to check our Wild Hills video to see the launch of the project. And yes, Wild Hills is a new real estate concept where we took work-life blending to work-life-nature blending. And we had this crazy idea. We always had the idea we want to build some real estate for smaller companies, meaning a business incubator, because I always had this dream. And we built it just outside of Cluj, where our company owns a farm, a huge farm. Actually, it's 100-year-old stables belonging to the Austro-Hungarian Empire with these really nice stables. And we're transforming all of them into offices, restaurant, events room, hotels. So basically another mini city. And we call this our brand strategy, coming back to the brand because everything starts with it, is Country Club for Innovators. So we took a business campus, we took the old definition of a country club, and we mixed them into a new project, a new concept, a country club for innovators, which is basically an offsite where teams and people can meet to learn, to work, to do really anything. But the only difference from CBC, the huge difference from CBC, is that it's in the middle of nature, in the middle of 100-year-old stables, obviously made to look really, really nice, fitted out really nice, and in the middle of 100 acres of green grass around. And there, of course, we're gonna just, if on 10 acres we build CBC, on 100 acres we're gonna build something amazing. And to give you an idea, we just made a big lake with the first wakeboarding park in Cluj, which is gonna be in front of your office. So imagine going in front of your office for a break and just doing wakeboarding. So yes, Wild Hills will be something new. It's gonna be for startups. So it's a business incubator, but of course we will have a lot of facilities for established companies and just people going to meet with investors or join startup pitches, or it's gonna be something interesting.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on this, that the idea of kind of businesses going offsite to nature, I think isn't necessarily new. It's actually, that's not new on its own, but I find really interesting the going deeper into the blending of living and leisure and working. I think we're going to see more of that. And generally, because our work and like our lives in work and outside of work are blending as well, actually. And I find it interesting that, again, you didn't come up with this idea after COVID started. Actually, that idea has been a couple of years in the making. And can you just share with everyone, how did it come up? Because I understand it started as a joke.
Okay, yes, it did start as a joke. You're right. But just to conclude on what you said, the idea indeed is not new, but the mixing of all this, because when you innovate, you don't necessarily have to build something that nobody has seen before, but you can take all the small innovations and mix them up like a producer and create a new concept. And now I'm actually working on rebranding the company that owns these two brands we're building, because I told my boss, look, we're no longer in the real estate business. We are, but we're a different kind of developer. We build ecosystems and communities. We don't build offices and mixed projects and whatever. So it's all about how you see things. And going back to how we started the Wild Hills, yes, it started as a joke because, not as a joke, but in 2018, we were prepared to write a business incubator project for the European Union to build a business incubator in Cluj, but we wanted to build it in CBC because it would have been simple, it would have added up really nicely to the ecosystem here. And then just discussing, I said, I don't really want to work so much right now to win some EU funds. I think I'm just going to do it ourselves, the building, and that's fine. And then my colleague asked me, but why don't you build this incubator you're dreaming of in the farm, in Jucu, at the stables? And I laughed and said, yeah, whatever. And we kept laughing and said, yes, and imagine doing this there and doing that there. And then just, it was over a few drinks. And then the night ended, and a few days after, we meet again. And we're like, listen, I've been thinking about our jokes lately. I'm still thinking about it. And he goes like, yeah, me too. And then, okay, let's see if there's anything serious. And then this thing just grew and said, okay, how are we going to make people go off-site there? Or how are we going to tackle the distance from the center of the town? And then one says, okay, what if we connect the two workplaces? Like we have a WeWork or a Spaces, but we only have two locations which are all cooler than anything else, Okay, that's interesting. How about we build a wakeboarding park? And then all these ideas, we put like I'll show you one day. We have like 20 or 30 crazy, really crazy ideas on a piece of paper. We picked like the first 10 and said, yeah, we can do these 10 in the first year, these 10 in the next year. And then we wrote the project, won it, and started building. And that's the story. I mean, we're very excited because we think everything we've done so far, this is our masterpiece. And yeah, we cannot wait to complete it.
And you actually mentioned that you delivered the application for the grant in a very condensed period of time, and you won. not only that you won the grant, but actually the prize for the best project, right? Which is pretty fun.
But yeah, the best project in Romania with 97 out of 100 points. And yes, it was a crazy month, and I'll never forget it.
Amazing. And you mentioned, we discussed this together, and you kind of hinted at it. You said, it's not necessarily about building something new completely from scratch, but maybe also taking ideas from others. And I just, at the end of the day, we're discussing brand and all these ideas. You mentioned that you had some inspiration actually for these things. Can you mention, because honestly, I find this is quite normal that people actually, and something inspires them, but not everyone talks about it, what actually was the thing that they took. So you mentioned WeWork to me. Can you talk about how WeWork and what you knew about them, and also other projects informed your idea for CBC and for Wild Hills?
Yes, well, WeWork definitely. I mean, there's jokes around CBC that I'm the Romanian Adam Newman, so don't. I'm a good salesperson. I like water sports, but I don't think we're identical guys. But the funny thing is, when I laid out my vision for CBC, there's this American colleague of mine who is on the board of CBC, and listening to my vision says, yeah, but you need to check these guys out. It's in the US, they're called WeWork. I said, sure, I will. And when I went online and looked at them, they were just like also in that moment of boom, the starting of the moment of boom. And it was so weird seeing a lot of my ideas, or let's say a vision already articulated by someone somewhere else. I felt less innovative, but then I said, well, they're not in Romania. We started at the same time. So yeah, that's funny. But then as they grew, they were a constant inspiration for me because obviously we all know how they attracted resources. So obviously they had a lot of resources to articulate that vision better. So I'd say my ideas were greatly enhanced by WeWork, and at some point also Spaces caught up in this, and I started studying them as well. And I'm not ashamed to say this because a lot of the players on the Romanian market, you can see copy-paste all our marketing and everything happening at CBC. And of course, it's sometimes frustrating. But if we think about it, this is the way we all learn. I mean, we copy what we see at our parents, that we imitate something. But then the innovation comes when you take what you've learned and, you bring your own thing and create an own thing, which inspires others at the same time. So I don't see it as fast. Yes, I learned a lot from them, and it was funny because I didn't scale, so I'm always thinking of what if, but it's fine.
But also, I think it's important to know that you heard about Adam Newman in 2011, 2012, when, to be honest, probably most of Europe hasn't heard about him yet. So I find it interesting that you picked on it so early. Right now, it's everybody knows the story. Everybody's thinking about building community, etc. But yeah, so I think it's interesting.
We had this about brand. This is an interesting idea. I mean, not necessarily real estate, but we had this discussion with my board and also this American lady I told you about. And after the pandemic, what are we going to do in the future? And I told them we're going to keep the same vision because if people will ever come back to the offices, they will come for the experience and the community. So yeah, we doubled down on that vision. But then I told them I'm a bit upset because of this pandemic, the whole real estate game is pushed to move forward. And now all my Romanian competitors were a little bit behind. They're going to come with the same, with their community and all the stuff that they cannot fully replicate, but they also build their points of parity, So So I was a bit upset, but then the same American woman tells me, Vlad, the things you did so far are not our differentiator. I said, how are they not? They brought us here. They built a brand. And she said, no, what brought us here is our ability to innovate. And then we just identified the fact that CBC as a brand must be the trendsetter in the Romanian market. That's why I told you I need to be the first that launches the app. I need to be, and if you look of everything that happening in the last years, you will see a lot of innovations in CBC that are first time in CBC in Romania. So yeah, that's a funny story as well.
Okay, it seems like we have no questions so far, so let's continue for a couple more minutes. I'm actually curious, maybe something to discuss publicly. You just mentioned innovation and staying ahead, so I assume that's the reason why you joined the Real Innovation Academy from Dror Polek and Anthony Slumbers. It's something that I want to do as well, but maybe can you share your experience with the audience? What kind of, how it's been, what it has given you, how it's changed your way of thinking?
Well, I learned a lot, and I met some really interesting innovators around the world. And obviously, studying innovators as I said, we have offices for the last 12 years. London has offices for the last 300. So innovators, it's normal. It's normal. So it's great to connect and see and every trend from there and how I can adapt it to the local market, all the lessons. And one thing I enjoyed was a lot of the conclusions of the course were that if you do community and you worry about tenant experience and you go beyond the offices, you'll be fine with the pandemic. And I was like, okay, but I'm already doing this. Tell me something new, But yes, it was an amazing experience, and I recommend it to everyone. It's about the brand value. One of our values in CBC is obviously the constant learning, because you cannot innovate if you don't constantly learn. So that starts from the CEO. The CEO always needs to know what's new and where's this industry going. So yeah.
Okay. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask. I'll have probably just one more. So I can imagine that so you build this brand about community, which has to meet in a way, at least sometimes, has to meet physically on site, and that's been difficult lately. How are you adapting to that? And also, it's kind of connected. What are your thoughts about this work from anywhere versus working in the office? Because to be honest, working from anywhere, I think at least right now, would be bad for you. So how are you just thinking about this whole? I don't want this to be again just a general question, kind of. So what about COVID? But you build community. Community is about being physical. How are you adapting? And yeah, how are you kind of thinking going forward? This is gonna go.
Well, we all know the conclusion that most reached is going to be work from anywhere and sometimes get physical. So maybe 1 day in the office, 2 days in the office, whatever. At some point, the office is still needed, not as much as it was before. So we all know the conclusion. So my bet was that now I need to prepare CBC for the hybrid environment, which means, okay, they work from anywhere, but they also have the choice of an office, just like all the major players did, like, Dropbox and Slack and everyone. They build those beautiful studios where when they come in the office, they do have an office, but then when they don't, they work from a co-work or whatever. So my plan was, okay, I want to be that office. I want to be that home where they build their, flagship wow office experiences office, where they come once a week, twice a week, I don't know how often they come. So as long as they come even once a week, they will still need an office. And my plan was, if I manage to be the best experience office, so top of my class, everyone has to fall for me to fall, That was the strategy. So that's how I'm preparing. I'm preparing to be the perfect hybrid working office. And so far it's worked really well. All the new tenants that came in this year, I spoke to them. Okay, guys, listen, let's speak about your vision about how you're going to work in the future. Let me show you yours. Let's see if we match this. And when they saw how I'm prepared, how I see the office, how We're gonna have an app to keep the people at home together, so digital, all that stuff, to keep the people here together. And then they told me they would like to bring people in the office. I mean, that's also something that you don't see a lot online, but really it exists. But you cannot tell them come in the office. So now everyone's talking about the strategy of how do we enable them to come in the office? How do we convince them? And I came up with a plan. Look, let's do this and let's do this. Let's create all these experiences. And again, let's try and draw in 5%, 10%. And then so the ones from home who are still included because we have the technology for them to participate in the meetings from home at the same time with these guys here. But let's show them what the office can offer them, and let's convince them that it's worth coming 2 or 3 days a week. And so far it's working.
Yeah, okay, that's great to hear. I think well, we have some feedback here. Love the attitude to being first. The willingness to take risks is an important part of industry leadership, but we don't talk about it enough. Thanks a lot. Doesn't sound like a question, but I agree. Kudos to you, Vlad. Let's wrap up. Vlad, how can people reach you and follow you and get in touch?
Well, they can reach me on LinkedIn. There I sometimes write articles on the future of work and where I see things going. And I also would ask them to follow CBC, Cluj Business Campus, and Wild Hills also on LinkedIn, because I like to speak through our, through what we do. So yes, LinkedIn mostly. And I would like to get in touch with anyone else interested in how we take the workplace further, because obviously I have a lot of learning to do from others, and I love to learn. I mean, that's how we push each other. And this COVID is like, a kick we got, but that makes us be better to survive. So let's get in touch, and I'm looking forward to learn from you.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Vlad. Great having you. Thanks a lot for sharing your insights. Thanks everyone for participating. Feel free to keep in touch, ask questions, share the recording of this event, which is going to be on LinkedIn, with your peers. By the way, I'm Ondrej, so with a J at the end, so you can find me on LinkedIn as well. This webcast was brought to you by Spaceflow, a talent experience platform for office and residential. I hope you like it. See you in the next one, and have a great afternoon.